Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you all to our business returns finale to our five-part webinar series. Again, these webinars will all be posted to our simpletechsupport.com website. There's knowledge base, there's training materials, there's tutorials, basically any piece of information that you could want on SimpleText 1040 is there. So as you can see, we went ahead and opened the program up. We're going to start right here in the business return summary. This is essentially the work in progress summary page of the business return summary. In 2015, we will have tabs across the top here for individual and business. You just choose the business tab, and it'll bring you basically to this screen. So what we're going to do today, we're going to do an 1120S today. The functions and the properties are basically the same. The process is essentially the same for 1065, 1120, 1120S, other than a few tax law type changes. So we're going to go ahead and start a new 1120S. So as you can see, you can choose 1065, 1120, 1120S. Go ahead and put that in here. Then we're going to set an EIN. In this particular case, we're going to use 112050001. We're going to hit OK, and we're going to get this thing started. Similar to the 1040, we're going to begin on the client data screen. As you can see at the top, the entity organization type is already chosen. EIN will be filled out because you entered that information when you began adding it. We're going to go ahead and name this one Big Publishing. The fields for office partner, office board partner. You're going to go ahead and put the business representative's first name. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and put Joe, and Joe's last name is Getty. So we're going to go ahead and use Joe Getty. Go ahead and enter the phone number in here. We'll go ahead and use 281-833-9300. The title, Joe is our CFO. We're going to go with that. And Joe's email address is help@simpletechsupport.com. We're going to bypass, you know what, we'll go ahead and let Joe have some text message stuff. So we want to go ahead and put in the carrier. AT&T on this. Preferred contact, I'm going to go ahead and use phone. And preferred language, you can just type in English in this particular one. So on the address line, we don't want to put the partner's address, obviously. We want to go ahead and put in the address for the business, which is 169 4th Street. We'll leave the second line blank. We're going to put in the zip code 77036. Put them right here. Oh, city. Got to put in city name. Got to put in state. Okay, there we go. Now we want to put in the information, the date that they were incorporated. So that's 02/02/2008. The state corporation, in this particular case, we're going to go ahead and say it's Texas. The NAICS code, which essentially is the business code for this one, is going to be, as you can see, principal product. We're going to put novelty publications. And the fiscal year, so the fiscal year beginning and fiscal year ending are used. If the company runs its books on a non-calendar year, like many places, many tax offices typically don't run it January 1st through December 31st. We run, June 1st through July 3rd, whatever the case may be. Service center were filed. That's going to auto-populate to what it needs to be. Typically, it's Ogden. The accounting method is accrual for this particular business. The accounting method basis, we're going to use the generally accepted principles. So then you want to come down here. You want to check you want to check any, boxes that apply. So if it's an amended return, initial return, final return, name change, address change, uh, those particular functions. In the next section, nothing nothing else really in here that we have to do. Okay, that's right. I'm sorry, I got a little sidetracked. The program is laid out a little bit differently this year than it has been in the past. So here we go. Check for schedules L, M1, and M2. Schedule L, M1, and M2 populate when they're required. So you can't force these by checking those boxes. If you need to force a schedule L, if you need to force a schedule M1. We don't need it in this particular return, so we're going to go ahead and say we're going to go ahead and leave these field blank. Excuse me. The next option, force to load allocation or check answer to no all questions scheduled for other information. None of those things that are things that we particularly need. The prepare information down here at the bottom, if they're doing a direct deposit, I guess in this particular one we can go ahead and do that. We'll let them go to Bank of America, 300, 300, 300. Okay. So the prepare info down here at the bottom should auto-populate if it's been set up with the paid prepare information out of database or through the login accounts. Client referral type, I always want to know where a client's from. So he came from Facebook ad, social media ad. So now we're going to go ahead and click save. Now we're going to start with the income statement. So right here you see financials, income statement. So gross revenues, gross receipts and sales, that's where it'll start. In this case, we're going to do just over 2 million. Novelty publications are pretty successful. The returns and allowances, 872. Line 3A is ordinary interest. In the ordinary interest, we have 2157. Now, we're going to hit Control W here. I'm going to bring up some worksheets here. We really should have not put this. Take that out. So in this field, we want to do the worksheets. We want to do interest from bank A. It's 1,500. Interest from bank B. We'll do 563, and do interest from bank C. We'll do $94. As you can see, we still end up with that 2157 that we had originally, but that's a great way to show off these worksheets. Now, if you're in this particular field, as you can see now, there isn't a worksheets option. You just hit Control W and it'll give you an overflow detail because it's not exactly a worksheet. This is an ever expanding worksheet, so if you need more information, just type it in the bottom. Fill out the last field, hit enter a tab, and it will generate another line for you to keep going. In line 8H, other tax exempt income, other income or loss not recorded above. So in here, we want to go to, we hit tab here. Oops. We can go code for reporting for other items off of line H. We want to hit choices and hit choices there, or you can begin typing in the code whatever is best for you. We're going to choose one here. Where's my consulting? Should be for consulting. Guess we'll just use other ordinary income. And here we'll type in consulting fees. That will work as well. Occurrence of duplicate 8825 for rental properties. In this particular case, we don't need that, so we can bypass it. And then we want to go ahead and enter the amount of the loss. The amount of the loss in this particular loss and or gain. In this case, it's gain. We're going to do 13,685. So if we have rental, which we're going to go ahead and put some of those in here, let's say rental A, gross receipts, choose option 11 for that, and then we want to choose a property, and then 56,000. And rental B, 11 to 64,000, something like that. So you see at the bottom, we have the total income here. At this point, if you haven't saved it, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and save. As you save, you see we're going to get the 1125E, we're going to get the 8825 for the unnamed activity at this point. And we'll get these things filled in a little bit further. Now we're going to jump down here into the expenses. So line 9A is where we're going to start. Expenses here, we're going to go ahead and put 15,000 for purchases. We're going to put another 14,000 on line B for direct and indirect labor costs. Down on line 9D is the calculated difference between the two. Calculated difference between opening and closing inventory. That's going to pull from the balance sheet. And there's a formings here. There's a balance sheet on that side, and that's where you would enter. Line 10 is counting. So we're going to put in some numbers here. We're going to put in some numbers on advertising. Let's say 10, 9. Some information in here for amortization. Now, a couple of things that we can do. We can do direct entry on these fields. For example, on accounting, or if they use more than one accounting firm, for example, again, that Control W function would be what you would want to put in here. So we did accounting firm 1, and we put, I don't know, 12,000, and accounting firm 2, for, I don't know, 573 or something like that. Then that would kind of change it, right? Then it will add those together and put them. Same thing with the advertising field. If you wanted to hit Control W off of this advertising field and say we did adman, and adman got 10,000, and adman 2, adman PC, maybe they got 9,579. So those works are a great way for you to kind of separate those things out and really let you know exactly what it is that you had going. So the sum of the lines on line 10 is that, again, going to be the same way. So line 12 is where we're talking about amortization. The IRS defines amortization as a method of recovering certain capital losses over a fixed period of time. So if we've got amortized items, then you use the depreciation module for that. So to do that, we hit Control N on the keyboard, or we can go to Add Form Depreciation. Either way takes you to the same place. As you see, here's all the items that are here. You want to choose that 1120. you want to do a new asset, and then you want to choose those assets and kind of go that way. What you want to choose here, line in here for it. 96, I think. Yeah, there we go. So here's some of those codes. They're usually down here in the bottom in the 90s. So we'll do 196 in this particular one. We're gonna call it a goodwill purchase, or whatever the. A goodwill purchase, just so you guys kind of know, is when you purchase a business and the business has an existing customer base. So if you're buying stuff and they already sort of exist, sort of like anybody who knows, like Intellitex, when TaxWise bought them, that would have been qualified probably as a goodwill purchase. The dates place in service, we're going to use 03/14/2010. So we want to put the original cost basis of there we go, 37,500. The rest of the fields in here can be left as default. Now we click the depreciation and you'll see it's already calculated. Because we selected code 96 previously, the recovery period gets set to 15 years. The method is straight line, and the method to set is mid-month, which for depreciation means the amount isn't deducted until the middle of the month. This only comes into play in the first and last year of the recovery period. So for this particular thing, it doesn't really matter. The adjusted depreciation comes out to $2,500, so you see that here. And that's going to carry back to line 12. So we want to go ahead and close. We want to do return to list. We're going to close, and then we're going to see this here. It did not carry back to line 12. I didn't. Might have put this in the wrong spot. Go back and check real quick. Oh, new asset. We'll have to come back. That should have had come back and calculated to this field. Not entirely sure why it didn't. At least according to my guide here, really no reason it shouldn't have. So let's jump down to line 18, depreciation for books and records. Once again, we go back into here. We're going to go back into the depreciation module. We're going to do new asset. Let's choose option 2. The ID, let's just do office furniture. Date, place, and service. Again, we're going to use that same 3/14/2010. Cost basis. That's the wrong. We want to use 4 on that. 16,240 is what we're going to list for the cost basis. So again, jump over to depreciation. Since this asset's available for bonus depreciation, um, we're not going to take the 179, so we can go down to the depreciation section. Do those. So we've got those. We can jump back over here to the depreciation tab itself. You can see the adjusted depreciation lines. Those are auto-calculated fields. So you shouldn't have to do anything. Most of these assets are going to come, they're going to use accelerated depreciation, have a different method for A&T versus regular tax. But in this particular return, the A&T ADS doesn't matter. So we'll focus on the column that says regular. So this column here, this column here. Now we have other items to depreciate as well, but I'm just going to kind of go forward with this particular one. Change this. I think wrong. So at this point, we'll go ahead and hit save again. Jump ahead a little bit here. Okay, so now we want to go to the balance sheet. In the balance sheet here, start at the top of the balance sheet, check these boxes here. So you'll fill out the first 11 lines. Typically, those are these 11 lines. Once you start getting down into other assets and total assets, but from 11 up is going to be sort of what ties everything together. So you start putting in the cash at the end of the year 2012, the cash at the end of the year of 2013 in this particular case. Start filling out all this information, 135, 002, down here, 30599. Well, actually, do 16240 because I didn't put all the other stuff that we could have put in here. Intangible assets, basically the same. I don't know. And you'll pull that into year 2012 and into year 2013 as you start to enter the information across the board. In the other assets line, I want to go ahead and enter this information here. So if you want to use the worksheets, you can use the worksheets. You've got enough here, but if you need more, the worksheets is the place to go. So in this place, we're going to go ahead and put in this current securities. We're going to put a couple of things in here, just so we can kind of make this thing a little bit better. 194 on the current securities, 97. Change peak. Let's throw one more in here. Long-term security holdings. Three in there. If you're not sure what assets they are, go ahead and you can see other investment, other current asset, non-current asset. You can use the choices menu will give you the codes that you'll need for these things. So there's the total assets, that gives you the total asset counts as well as for end of 2012 and end of 2013. So here's the liabilities. Let's throw some liability information up here. 2857 459 71. I'm just kind of pulling the numbers off of my paperwork here. All non-recourse loans. That one will stay blank for now. Loans from owners. Mortgage notes, bonds, those things. 85,204 and 96,4. Okay. In the other liability section, again, we're looking at that worksheets list and the codes that we talked about even before. So let's do short-term obligations. So that was code 16205, and here it was 45.8. And here we're going to do long-term obligations. And option 2. 25,200, 25,200. So as you can see down here, the liabilities are pretty substantial. Now, the last section on this balance sheet is going to be the owner's equity portion. In this particular case, we have retained earnings unappropriated. You'll see those lines in there. So this line 24 should populate automatically based on the numbers entered in the final section. Line 28 and 29 is going to show the total equity and the total liability and owner's equity. So you kind of see everything in there at one place. So when we save, we're going to see quite a few other forms now added to here. The 1125A already added itself to the return when we added the cost of the goods sold, but there are a few questions that still need to be answered on it. So we're going to go ahead and jump over there to that. So line 9A is a particular one. Asks about whether Section 236A rules apply to any of the property. In short, for this particular return, we're going to answer line 9E as none. So it doesn't really apply. 9F, asks if there were changes in determining quantities, costs, or valuations between the opening and closing inventory, and in this case there was not, or there was, I'm sorry. So we're going to go ahead and put yes in that box. If yes, attach explanation. So if we click over here, we're going to run this worksheet, and here's where we can type in the explanation. So we can write accounting method change from total weight to number of containers. So you'll see it'll throw in the C state there, so that you know that there's a statement. There's more information. So the next page we're going to go to, the next form we're going to go to is the 8825. And in that 8825, the 8825 was added when we had put information in the line 8H of the income statements and used code 11. Code 11 for line H tells the software that the amount in the corresponding field is to be tracked as gross rents on property A, and that triggered what we're seeing now with the 8825. So on property A, we're going to go ahead and put in the address. In this case, we'll do 123 Main Street. We need to choose a property type. In this case, we're going to choose a commercial property. Fair rental days, 365. No personal days use on this one. We've also got a property B that we're going to use. 122 South Street. Out in another area. Now, this is going to be single family residence. The number of fair rental days is 350. Still no personal days for us on this particular property. So now we go back to the 1120S. So far, we have input all our calculations onto the 1120S indirectly by using and adding other forms and schedules. But some information will have to be added directly to the 1120S. Line A wants to know the election effective date for this corporation, the date the corporation became an S Corp. In this case, the line that we're looking at here, we're going to go ahead and go with 3/04/2010. Line G here. Is the corporation electing to be an S Corp at the beginning of this section? No. We already know that because we put an election date, an effective date, an election effective date, excuse me. That wasn't this year, so we know we don't need to do any of that. Now, since there are two shareholders in this particular corporation, we're going to need to create two K1. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and go to the attached forms list and the K1 manager. So here we want to go ahead and click on that, add. So we want to check here if authorized to provide Schedule 1 to the shareholder via email, which is great. If you can send this to them, via email. New final K1 or amended K1. Since this is neither the final nor an amended, we'll go ahead and leave both those fields blank. Part 1 is auto calculated off of the corporation information. Information about the shareholders, which is part 2. Shareholder again. Shareholder is an individual, not a company, so in this case, we'll leave the top section blank. We're going to come down here to the shareholders assessment. In particular case for this shareholder, we're going to use 410.10 or 1010. And we're going to go ahead and get Joe Getty his stuff going. So we're going to go ahead and enter the address for him. Then we want to put all of his information, complete basis for the worksheet of shareholders by default, yes. What type of entity is the next line? You can start typing, or you can always hit choices again, like I said before. So now we're up here into the ordinary loss business income section. We're done, essentially, with the K1 at this point. So what we want to do is go back to the K1 manager. So we want to add, go back to K1. We want to add a second K1. This one doesn't really, again, it's basically the same thing. We come back down here. Get the information on this second shareholder is. Second shareholder is good buddy Jack Armstrong. That's just kind of what we're going. Oh, shareholder. And Jack's getting round up individual. And we are done with the K1s. That's about as simple as it gets. I want to show you when we say go into the K1 manager, you'll see that column marks there for the roundup. There should be a shareholder basis. So add one more here. Go back in here. We're not generating K1s. This is million. Oh, Generate for me. This side here, we should have K1. I'm gonna close this out. I'll show you guys one. Just jump over here. I've got a locking. So I got one. I think they changed the way this works for next year. So we'll come back and talk about the share basis worksheet at a later point. There's a checkbox. That's where I knew I was missing something. Just like the one forms in the navigation window. Go ahead and close up. There we go. Now we get the shareholder basis worksheet for Joe Getty. So we want to put stockholder stock basis. For Joe, it was 150,000. He didn't contribute anything as far as that, so we can go ahead and close this out. We want to do the same thing for Jack here. His stake was 150 as well. $88.79. I mean, we are good at this point. So now we're going to jump down into the e-file authorization. Down here. So up here in part 2, want to make sure that the pins are populated, that the dates and stuff are correct. You want to make sure that the pay prepare information, the ERO information is filled out correctly there. All that stuff should auto-populate. Let's go ahead and verify and see if there's anything else that we have. Let's go down to 1120. We've got still quite a few things. You want to make sure that you answer these questions in this section. This is a really new section at the bottom underneath all this. This is the schedule B other information. Part of that was we had some other stuff that triggered this. There we go. Now we verified successfully. So we hit transmit. We're going to queue the federal. You hit send. Prior to doing that, let me step back one. You do want to go ahead and print out, go in and print the EF documents. have them sign the 8879 S and keep those records prior to transmitting. Once you've marked it for transmission, it's going to sit as return queued. At that point, go back out to the work in progress. You do have to go back to the 1040 section to transmit. There's only one transmit function. You hit transmit, it'll connect to central site. The return will go, and that's basically it. Now, as far as the 1065 and 1120, again, the functions are roughly the same. They're basically the same process. I am going to put a tutorial up for the 1065. 1120, 1120S is almost identical, no matter how the corporations are classified. But for a 1065 for partnership return, it is a little bit different, but there's not major differences. But we will put up a partnership tutorial up on our customer support portal at simpletext.com within the next week or so. Business returns don't typically start until we get through the rush of individual returns. I do want to thank everyone for their time today. I really appreciate you guys coming out here or taking the time to come online and spend some time learning with me. I want to wish everyone the best possible tax season imaginable. And if you have any questions, whether it be about business returns or any other function of the program or the banks for that matter, please call us. That's what our customer support team is here for. Our number is 281-833-9300, and you could option 2 for support. Again, thank you guys and have a great night.